Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dante Powell Show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, listening, watching, whatever you're doing. I really appreciate it. I want y'all to know that you guys have been supporting this. So just right off the bat, just want to send out some love for all of you for doing that. Let's jump right into this week's episode. Because I got some stuff I really want to talk to you guys about. I want to start with Bishop T.D. Jakes. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with the news about him, but Bishop T.D. Jakes, for those of you who don't know who he is a prominent black clergyman. So all my life, like I grew up in a Southern Baptist church in Louisiana, and it feels like most of my life I knew about Bishop T.D. Jakes. He's this, like, I guess he would be considered a televangelist because he was always on TV and he just rose to notoriety because he would just do these incredible, like, sermons where he just spoke with such passion and was so kind-hearted and thoughtful and just became very popular and famous. And the next thing you knew, he was kind of like the hip new thing, right? And so he's had a long run of just being an important voice in the black Southern Baptist, and not even Southern Baptist only, but like, because I don't know what denomination his church would be considered. I believe it's Baptist, but maybe not. But he's had a stronghold on just that sector of not even just religion, but just like televangelism in the South in the way that you might think of like a Joel Osteen or a Creflo Dollar or those sorts of people who you see on television, but his reach wasn't so dependent on, garnering support from people that watch the show. He was able to kind of do it in house there at the Potter's House, which was the name of his church, I believe. So I'm saying all that to set up the fact that this week a TikTok came out, and we all know that the most trusted source for news and information these days is TikTok. And this TikTok alleged that Bishop Jakes was known for going around P. Diddy parties as a power bottom. He would show up at these P. Diddy parties that were, in essence, these big orgies, and he, again, was a power bottom. Now, if you don't know what that is, I don't know that I have what it takes or that I'm equipped to properly explain that. So you're going to probably want to go to Urban Dictionary, look that up, pause this real quick, and then come back and we'll get to the bottom, no pun intended, of all of this. So again, this was just alleged in a TikTok video. And so naturally, as these things do, when they become popular or viral for whatever reason, it led to a ton of jokes. I made a ton of jokes as well. It's just how the cycle of this thing works nowadays. But it got me to thinking, and I was like, I wonder what we're going to do about this moving forward. If this is just the new normal, is this how we're going to operate? Because even on one of the posts I made at the end of it, I was like, it's crazy how we just take these rumors and they become fact. Because again, I want to make sure I'm being clear about this. This was just something that was alleged in a TikTok video. And so I'm trying to be careful when I make these jokes to make sure I'm being silly and make sure I'm not being so like accusatory or presenting them as fact because I don't know. I don't. I just like everyone else was making jokes. I just saw it and kind of ran with it to be a part of the zeitgeist of whatever is happening. But the more I like think about it and the more I talk about it and the more this sort of thing comes up, it does lead me to wonder, you know, how are we dealing with this and is this the proper way to do it? Because you don't want to be taking someone who is dealing with something that is very is going to be very difficult because the thing is I don't know his life. So let's say that if it is, true, for example, I don't know if he has an understanding with his wife because he is married. and that's okay with them. I don't know if he's preaching from a biblical space that, is negative towards homosexuality. I don't know if he is preaching from a biblical place that is negative towards lascivious acts, like the ones that he's being accused of or alleged to be participating in. And so when I think about those sorts of things, it's like, okay, I hope he's not out here being a hypocrite. But if he is participating, what the bigger question that brings to mind for me is it actually my business? I'm making the jokes about it, but should it matter to me? Because the truth of the matter is it doesn't. I don't care what he does in his bedroom or what he does at P. Diddy parties. I don't care. If he's able to bring the word to other people and they can accept that and it's okay with them, I don't know that my opinion on it should matter to anyone but me. And so, but me. So as I watch this unfold, I know that he is in a position of power because the people who go to him for spiritual guidance, they've given him a certain measure of trust. And so I understand if those people may feel betrayed if, like I said, for example, he is preaching from a place where the word he's preaching is judgmental towards that sort of lifestyle. But if not, and he is, fairly open to people living lives in their bedrooms or within certain private realms that are meant to be kept private, then again, this coming out is not something that he volunteered. So I don't know that it's right to necessarily care about it because as long as no one is hurt, then it should be okay. Here's the qualifier. I want to make sure I qualify this. In the TikTok video, there was also an allegation, and it was loosely alleged that there may be some information coming out regarding him and underage men or boys. That's underage men are boys. If that is what's going on, that is a completely different thing. Okay. That is unacceptable. We understand that. I'm speaking specifically just about this from the perspective of we're going to assume that what is going on is consensual. And I know that's a leap, and we can't technically assume that. But I just wanted to speak on this from that perspective. If he's operating in a space within bounds that are consensual, why would this be my business? Because again, he's not my spiritual leader. He's not. And again, for those of you, if he is someone that you look to for spiritual guidance, uh, to what level are you taking this in and not being bothered by it, or are you taking it in and being bothered by it? Because I'm really curious about that for the people who live a life where he is offering that sort of guidance. Is this something that you're looking at and going, just the allegation alone is enough to make you feel some type of way? Is it enough that the allegation, you hear it and go, oh no, not my bishop, I know better, that's false? Is it something that you look to, and as you get more information, you're gonna gauge it based on that? It just brings about all these questions, along with all the jokes, along with all the self-searching I'm doing about it, because again, I, I always feel like as a comedian, I want to get in here and make the joke. I want to be a part of the culture and talking about it, but not so much that I'm perpetuating a certain, I don't know, a certain normalizing of a response that's going to make it seem like it's okay to take jokes as judgment, because it isn't a judgment on the guy. It's simply just trying to be a part of, again, the cultural conversation around it. Speaking of that, I do want to move on to the next topic I wanted to discuss, which was Joe Rogan, who was another comedian, very funny guy. From what I hear, I'm saying that because I've only watched one of his specials on Netflix, and it was okay. I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny, but I don't really know a lot of his stand up. I do know that he has the most famous podcast hosted by a comedian, if not the most famous, maybe the second most famous. It's either him or Mark Maron with WTF. But the Joe Rogan Experience was bought out by Spotify a few years ago for tons of millions of dollars. And this week, he got popularized all over again, which is not uncommon for him. It feels like every month or so, there's at least a clip or two from his show that goes viral. But this week, he went viral because during a show, he was interviewing a guest, and I don't know who the guest was, but in the clip, you can see he's talking to the guest about President Joe Biden, right? And he's talking about Joe Biden, and he thinks that he's a babbling idiot, is what it comes down to. And in the process of explaining how he thinks he's an idiot, he tells his guest, he goes, hey, did you see what he said the other day? And he references Joe Biden saying, and I'm paraphrasing some of this, but the clip is out there. If you want to go find the clip, please do, because it's very interesting to watch. And he basically says that Joe Biden said that the reason America lost the Revolutionary War is because of airports, the lack of airports. And then he clarified that a little bit by saying that he may have actually said that it was just a lack of access to airports, or he tried to clean it up a little bit. And then the guy that he was interviewing starts to laugh, and they make a big fuss about how if anyone else was at their job and they were babbling this way and sort of incoherent. They almost made it seem like it was incoherent. They were like, if you tried to do any other job with that, they'd be like, no, you're done. You cannot do this job. And Joe Rogan, to his credit, I guess, I don't, has his assistant that works for him during the podcast, one of his producers, right? It's a gentleman named Jamie. And Jamie fact checked in real time this situation. And I don't know that he necessarily fact checked it. I think what he did was he was trying to provide context to Joe and his guest in real time. And so what he'll do is sometimes they have a screen there in studio. We can pull up like articles and things, and Joe can read them live while he's recording. And he did that, and he played it. And what it was Joe Biden actually referencing Donald Trump, saying that there was a lack of airports or air support during the Revolutionary War. And so in the clip, Joe Biden goes, the stable genius thought that he basically made fun of Donald Trump, referencing some form of airports being available during the Revolutionary War. And then once that was made clear to Joe, that it wasn't actually something that Joe Biden said, it was in fact Joe Biden making fun of Donald Trump saying it. Joe Rogan just kind of dismissed it as, oh, Joe, this was just Donald Trump not saying what he meant. He just kind of slid it under the rug like it wasn't a huge deal. It was honestly kind of embarrassing to watch, because I know when you go into something and you're speaking on it and you're trying to do so not necessarily from the most informed position, but you're presenting it as, I'm somewhat informed on this. Like, he went to the guy and was like, oh, did you see what he said the other day? When you do that and you're immediately shown to be incorrect, that's embarrassing, man. Like, that's a lot to take on there. And they showed it, and they just kind of like, again, they brushed it off like it wasn't a huge deal. And maybe it's not a huge deal, but it's a big deal, because one of the things that Joe and his guest kept saying was like, this is what the media does, and you know how the media will do. And what struck me was, in that moment, they were the media. Like, they were talking about this in a way that media would, in the way that I guess technically this small podcast that's just mine would be media. And so that was very interesting to watch because it's like you had every opportunity to just own up to it and be like, you know what? I was wrong. And in this moment where I was wrong, I had something that I felt one way about. And because of the new information I've been given, I should probably feel very differently about this. But instead, he just sort of brushed it off. And that made me look at it and go, huh, like maybe you aren't the source of information that you may think you are. Maybe because I don't know that Joe takes himself so seriously that he thinks he's like a newsbreaker or anything. But I do think that even just watching the clip, you can see that he's attempting to speak from an informed perspective. And so to have that challenged and shown to be incorrect, like I said, must have been very embarrassing. And I always like to say to his credit, but to his credit, he just left it in. That may be because he records with a live audience watching. It may be because he just didn't feel like taking it out or editing it out. But it's out there for the world to see. And if you are going to make the mistakes and you are going to leave them out there, then I think there's something to be said for that. That, okay, here's somewhere where I messed up. I'm showing you that I'm being corrected and messing it up. I won't necessarily do the full position change, but what I will do is have it out there and available. And so that's another like interesting thing to me, like that. How are we going to deal with this moving forward? If you are fact checked, if it is shown that, hey, my position on this is incorrect, how should I go about fixing this? Are we just going to do it in real time? Is it just going to be a thing of like, hey, I messed up. I sound like an idiot right now. I need to just shut up. Or is it just going to be a thing of like, okay, I messed up. Let me just brush it under the rug and then come back out here next week doing the exact same thing and potentially being wrong then as well. I don't know. I like to hope that for me, while I'm doing this, I can take on this as a learning experience where it's like, okay, I like what Joe did in leaving it out there and letting people see the mistake and seeing it being corrected. But I also like to think that I want to approach this from a place of if that ever happens to me, I can, in the moment, deal with it in a way that shows some humility and ability to be corrected in a way that's going to be helpful. And so, with that said, what I want to do now is take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with a couple of fun topics. This is the Christmas episode. We're going to talk about Christmas gifts, and then we're going to talk about Brazil nuts. We'll be right back in just a moment. TDPS listeners, thank you guys so much for your support. Right now, I'm doing what I do every week, where I beg for sponsors. If you would like to come on as a sponsor of the Dante Powell Show, I would absolutely love to have you. I'll do any sort of advertisement you want for any sort of product or service you want. All I need you to do is hit me up. We can discuss prices and make this thing work. All right. Thank you guys so much. See you on the other side. Yo, we are back. I want to do something special for our Christmas episode here. I want to talk about Christmas gifts. I'm super excited. This is my first Christmas with my twin daughters. They are 15 months now. And last Christmas they were alive, but they were too little to take on opening presents. Like we opened everything for them. We got them a bunch of cool stuff. But this year they'll be able to like tear into the paper and open things, and I get to see their faces light up at gifts and things like that. And I am beyond excited. But it got me to thinking. I was like, what are some of my favorite Christmas gifts that I remember growing up? And because I'm thinking to myself, like, what are the things that stuck out to me? Because that's what I want to provide to them. And the first thing that comes to mind for me, I don't know why, but there was one Christmas, and I don't remember the year. I have to look it up. But there was this gaming console called like a game.com. I believe that's what it was called. I have to look it up. But my parents got me one, and I thought this thing was the greatest thing on it. Like the advertisements for this thing made it seem like if you didn't get one, you were just the biggest loser in the world. And I got one. And it was like an early version. Like imagine the earliest version of a PSP because it was a handheld gaming device. And all I could really do, I remember it had a stylus, but all you could really do on it was play these. It was like almost, it was these 16-bit games. And it was fun. I enjoyed it so much because I knew that, like, as bad as I wanted it and as much as I bothered my parents for it, they didn't, like, I grew up poor, but not to the point that we wouldn't get anything for Christmas. Like, I got multiple gaming systems growing up. I got PlayStation when it came out, PS1 when it came out. They'd always get us games. And remember, I got a Sega Genesis one year. Like, I had things like that. But this was something that it was sort of new and popular in a way, but a little bit obscure enough that not everyone was going to get one. And so the fact that they went through with it and got it for me was really huge for me. And I played it to the point that I think the first day I had it, it ran into like technical issues or something. I don't remember, but I like one of the games they got me didn't work or something. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, oh, this is the worst thing in the world. And they were like, no, maybe it has a warranty. And that's when I learned about warranties. I didn't know that was a thing before that. But that that was a really cool Christmas for me because I want to say I went to my Uncle Gary's house in Texas that Christmas as well. And I took that Gamecom or Game.com or whatever it was on that trip, and it entertained me. It kept me busy. It was really dope. So that stuck with me for some reason, and I enjoy telling people about it. So you guys get to hear about it as well. That same Christmas, got another gift that really stuck with me for a long time. I got a FUBU jacket from my Aunt Kim. She hooked it up. I think she got it from the PX, uh, which is the Post Exchange, or the BX. I forget. My uncle Roosevelt, that she's married to, was in the Air Force. So they always lived on Air Force bases. And I would go visit them, and she worked at the PX or the BX. I forget which one. I think if it's an Air Force base, it's like a base exchange. So it will be a BX, but I don't know. I always heard it referred to as both. At any rate, I think she got us these FUBU jackets there, maybe. If not, she got them somewhere. And it was this cool, like green jacket with white sleeves. And I love that thing. It was lightweight. Growing up in Louisiana, you don't need a huge, heavy coat, but it was stylish and cool. And FUBU was huge at the time. And again, it was the same year that I got that gaming device. And I remember wearing that out to Texas and just feeling like the flyest dude in the world. Um, and again, I don't know why this stuck with me, but it did. And then there was one year when I was much younger that my dad sent me a pool table, like table tennis thing that you could play pool on one side, table tennis on the other. It was this, I couldn't believe that I had this cool thing. Like it was like this toy for me. I don't remember how old I was for that either, but I was the kid that when we moved, because when it showed up, we were living at my grandmother's house. So I had to open it there. But then soon after, my mom and me and my stepdad, we moved into a trailer where I had my own room, and we set up the pool table in my room. And when my cousins and friends would come over, we play pool, and it was the coolest thing in the world to me. But I really enjoyed that gift as well. The other gift I want to talk about is just the gift of like family time, because that was huge. I remember growing up, it felt like every Christmas someone was coming to visit back home in Louisiana. And I loved that. I loved that Thanksgiving was always a huge thing for my family. That's kind of our holiday. We all try to get back for Thanksgiving, but it felt like an uncle or an aunt or like some family tried to make it home for Christmas as well. And getting to be around them was so cool. I remember one year my Aunt Joan came home, and like she had two children that were a little bit younger than me. My Aunt Sharon's children were around, and then me and my siblings were around, and we had just moved into we moved out of the trailer that I was just telling you guys about into a house in the town that I grew up in. And I want to say we had only been there maybe a year or two, but it snowed. And it wasn't like huge snow. We didn't get a lot of snow in Louisiana, but it snowed enough that we could like go out and play in it. We couldn't build a snowman, but it was enough that we could, make a snowball or two and throw it at each other. And it was just beautiful to see. And that's the stuff I remember so much more than the material things. I remember the time I had to spend with my family, and that means the world to me. And even knowing that, I know that so much. I've been stressing like crazy, worrying about what I'm gonna get for my kids and trying to make sure that they have everything that I see that I go, oh, I bet they'd enjoy that. I try to get it for them. And I know that the time is what's most important. I know that one day they'll look back on things, hopefully, and feel that way. But in the moment, I just want them to have uh, so much. And I know a lot of you probably feel the same way, but uh, I wanted to get into it a little bit. And so, if you got anything cool for Christmas, if you bought someone something really cool for Christmas, a gift you're excited to give someone, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Hit me up. Just message me if you want to. Just tell me all about it. I'll be sure to mention it in a coming podcast. We'll make a big deal out of it because I think this is cool. I think that a lot of times we can lose focus in so many different ways about what holidays are for, but this one in particular, um, I like giving gifts, and for the people who enjoy giving gifts, for us this can be a really cool thing, right? But you don't get to really celebrate that. Nobody, like when you see children on Christmas, you don't go up to them and go, "Hey, what was your favorite gift to give?" You always ask, "Hey, what'd you get?" And so I just want to, if I can, bring some positive vibes and put them on the side of things that are, what did you give? What did you enjoy giving? Because I want to know about it. Before we get out of here today, I want to do one more topic. And this one is near and dear to my heart. Uh, Recently, I got on Facebook and I asked my Facebook friends and family, what did your grandparents call Brazil nuts? I got some very interesting responses. I only asked because my grandparents, or at least my granny, would always tell us that for most of her life, she heard them referred to as nigger toes. That is not a joke. That is not me kidding around. That is what she knew them as growing up. She grew up in small town, north central Louisiana, and that is what some people there called them. And so I got curious and I was like, is this a thing? And I Googled it a little bit, and apparently it is a thing. I wasn't the only one with a grandparent who referred to them as such. And so I thought, let's dig into this a little bit more. I posted it on Facebook, and boy, let me tell you, I got over 100 responses to this with people being like, nope, nope, they said it, and I'm not saying it. And it wasn't funny to watch. That's probably not the word I'm looking for, but it was certainly something. It's just a thing of like, wow, that y'all were around that. You were around it. You were in that. And so I want to ask you, the listening audience, those of you who are Facebook friends with me, you may have already answered this, but I want to put it out there for TikTok and Instagram and the other social media options I have, because it's not like this is something that we can't talk about beyond Christmas. Let's get to the bottom of it. What did your grandparents call Brazil nuts? Let me know in the comments. And then I want you guys to like and share and tell someone about the Dante Powell Show. I'd really appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys soon. Take care and have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah. That may have even passed already. I'm not too familiar with other holidays. I grew up in Christmas, man. I'm sorry. But whatever it is, enjoy this time with your family, with your friends, with yourself. I'm putting love out there. So if you feel like you're alone, don't be. Invite me in spiritually, and I'll be there with you. Take care. Until next time.